All right, everyone, get ready because today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty huge, the global economic outlook.
It's a big one for sure.
We've got this seriously hefty OECD report.
Oh yeah, it's packed.
It's got enough data and projections to make anyone's head spin.
Absolutely, and that's what we're here for, to break it all down.
Exactly. We're going to equip you with the knowledge you need, whether you're studying for a tough exam like the UPSC, doing some academic research, or just curious about what's happening in the world.
Think of this as your global economic cheat sheet.
Perfect for students, business leaders, policy folks, you name it.
Anyone who wants to stay ahead of the curve.
So let's get right to it. What's the overall vibe?
Is the global economy doing a happy dance or more like a nervous shuffle?
Yeah, is it good news or bad news?
Well, the OECD report actually paints a pretty resilient picture.
Well, that's good.
They're projecting global growth of 3.2% in 2024
Okay,
and then 3.3% in both 2025 and 2026.
not bad.
And remember how inflation has been causing a global headache?
Oh, yeah?
It seems to be easing in many countries.
So some relief for consumers and businesses.
Exactly.
So can we all breathe a sigh of relief?
Well, not so fast.
Oh.
The report does emphasize the highly uncertain nature of things.
Oh, okay.
There are a lot of factors that could throw us off course.
Like what?
Well, geopolitical tensions, for one.
Like the conflicts in the Middle East.
Exactly. Those are a major wild card.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there are trade restrictions and the lingering effects of the pandemic.
Right. Those could definitely rain on our parade.
They could indeed.
So it's not all sunshine and rainbows then.
Not quite. There's definitely an edge to this economic party.
But you mentioned resilience. What's driving that?
It's a combination of factors.
Okay.
Some countries have just adapted remarkably well to the post-pandemic world.
Makes sense.
And then there's the sheer determination of businesses and consumers to keep things moving forward.
It's like we've got this attitude.
Exactly.
But resilience isn't immunity, right?
We're still in a pretty complex economic landscape.
Speaking of complexity, let's talk about this labor shortage thing that's been all over the news.
Oh yeah, it's a fascinating paradox.
It seems like everyone's hiring, but no one can find workers.
That's the conundrum, and it's a key theme in the OECD report.
What's so paradoxical about it?
Well, what's strange is that labor shortages are often a sign of economic strength.
Wait, so tons of job openings is a bad thing?
Not necessarily, but it's complicated.
Help me understand this.
Okay, so high demand for workers usually means businesses are booming, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But at the same time, those shortages can create a bottleneck for future growth.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think of it this way. If companies can't find the skilled workers they need, it can really hinder their ability to innovate, expand, create even more jobs.
Right, so it's a double-edged sword.
Exactly.
And the report says these shortages are especially bad in sectors that need specialized knowledge.
Right, like technology and healthcare.
So it's not just about filling any empty position.
No, it's about finding the right people with the right skills.
And I'm guessing this is playing out differently around the world.
Absolutely.
Go on.
Well, the report dives into how countries like the US, Canada, and Germany,
Those big tech hubs,
exactly, they're facing intense competition for top talent.
I can imagine.
It's affecting wages, innovation, even the competitiveness of these nations.
So the stakes are high.
Very high.
The report even mentions that back in 2019,
Yeah.
over half of the sectors they looked at needed a major reshuffling of workers to fill vacancies.
That's a lot of people changing jobs.
It really shows how big of an issue this is.
It really does.
So we've got this global economy showing resilience, but with some uncertainty,
Right.
and this labor shortage puzzle adding another layer of complexity.
Exactly.
What stands out to you as the most important takeaway so far?
You know what strikes me is how interconnected everything is.
How so?
Well, the decisions one country makes about interest rates or trade deals can affect economies across the globe.
Right, it's a domino effect.
Yeah, exactly. And these labor shortages aren't just a local problem. They impact the global flow of goods, services, innovation.
It's like we're all in this together.
We are, for better or worse,
So we've got the big picture now.
the global overview.
Are we ready to zoom in on some specific countries?
I think it's time to get a more focused view.
Let's put on our economic magnifying glasses and explore some country spotlights.
Sounds good to me. Let's go. First stop, China.
Okay.
Seems like the economic giant is facing a bit of a slowdown.
Yeah, I've been hearing about that. What's going on over there?
Well, a big part of it is challenges in their real estate sector.
Oh, real estate, huh?
Yeah, it's having a ripple effect, slowing down their whole economic engine.
real estate struggles. And that's something a lot of people can relate to,
For sure.
even outside of China.
Absolutely.
So how does a sputtering China impact the rest of the world?
Well, China is such a major player in global trade and investment
Right.
that any slowdown there can really send tremors through the global economy.
Makes sense.
Businesses that rely on China for manufacturing or as a market for their products, they might start feeling the pinch.
I see.
Think about it. If Chinese consumers are buying fewer electronics,
Yeah.
it could impact companies all the way in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, it really is all connected.
It is.
Okay, next up on our world tour, India.
India.
It seems like they're bucking the trend,
They are.
experiencing strong growth even with all the global uncertainty.
That's right. While some economies are tapping the brakes, India is hitting the gas pedal.
Interesting. So what's their secret?
Well, they've got a few things working in their favor.
Like what?
India has a large and young population.
Lots of potential consumers.
Exactly, and they've also made huge strides in digital infrastructure.
So they're becoming a tech hub.
They are a hub for startups and innovation.
That's exciting.
Think about the rise of mobile payments in India.
Yeah.
It's completely transformed how people do business there.
That's a great example of how embracing technology can really fuel economic growth.
It is.
Okay, let's swing by the United States now.
The economic powerhouse.
Always in the spotlight. What's the outlook there?
Well, the U.S. economy is still showing signs of strength,
That's good.
but there are definitely some yellow flags.
Oh, what kind of yellow flags?
High interest rates and persistent inflation are causing some headaches.
Yeah, those are big challenges.
For sure, policymakers are definitely feeling the pressure.
It's like they're walking a tightrope.
Trying to keep inflation in check without causing the economy to tumble.
A delicate balance.
Very delicate.
So what are they doing about it? What strategies are they considering?
Well, there's a lot of debate about the best course of action.
I bet.
Some argue for more interest rate hikes to curb inflation,
Okay.
while others worry that could trigger a recession.
All right. So it's a tough call.
It is no easy answer.
And of course, what happens in the U.S. economy affects the whole world.
Absolutely. It's a butterfly effect. A policy decision in Washington
Yeah.
could have consequences on the other side of the planet.
Now, I know we're all about tailoring these deep dives.
We are.
So let's choose a couple more countries based on what you're interested in.
Okay. Sounds fun.
We could explore economies with different approaches to things like fiscal policy or trade agreements.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Whatever piques your curiosity.
Let's see.
What are you thinking?
Well, we could compare how a country like Sweden,
Okay.
with its strong social safety net, is dealing with an aging population
Interesting.
versus a country like Japan,
Okay.
which is facing similar demographic shifts but with a totally different policy framework.
It's like a global laboratory of economic experiments.
It is.
By looking at different approaches, we can get some valuable insights
Absolutely.
into what works and what doesn't.
For sure.
Okay, before we move on to policy recommendations,
Yeah.
let's do a little thought experiment.
Okay, I like this.
Imagine you're an economic advisor to these nations.
Is that right?
What's your top piece of advice?
That's a good question.
Just something to think about as we dig into what the OECD suggests.
Well, I think my advice would be to focus on long-term sustainability.
Sustainability.
Yeah, both economic and environmental.
Okay.
We need to move away from those short-sighted policies
Right.
and invest in things like education, renewable energy infrastructure.
Things that will set us up for success down the road.
Exactly.
It's about playing the long game,
It is.
not just chasing quick fixes.
Right.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of policy.
Okay, let's do it.
What does the OECD report say are the priorities?
For navigating this crazy economic landscape.
Yeah. What should policymakers be focusing on?
Well, the report lays out several key areas.
Okay.
First and foremost, taming inflation without stifling economic growth.
That sounds tricky.
It is a delicate dance.
So not too much gas, not too much brake.
Exactly. You need the right tools at the right time.
Finding that sweet spot.
Exactly.
What else?
Then there's managing those rising debt levels.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Especially for countries with aging populations and rising healthcare costs.
It's like juggling a bunch of bills while walking a tightrope.
Haha, that's a great analogy.
Thanks.
The report really stresses the need for credible fiscal paths.
Credible fiscal paths.
Basically believable plans for managing spending and debt.
So making sure the government's checkbook is balanced.
And that they're not living beyond their means.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What else is on the OECD's to-do list?
They also talk about the importance of structural reforms.
Structural reforms.
Yeah, to boost long-term growth potential.
So like giving the economy a tune-up.
Exactly. Make it
Right.
run more efficiently.
What kind of tune-up are we talking about here?
Well, it's different for every country,
Right.
but there are some common themes.
Okay. Like what?
Investing in education and training so workers have the skills they need for those future jobs.
Makes sense.
Then there's upgrading digital infrastructure.
Like expanding broadband access.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
investing in cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial these days.
And we can't forget about the transition to a greener, more sustainable economy.
Right, that's a big one.
It is.
So it sounds like they're saying be proactive.
Yeah,
Don't just react to crises as they come up.
exactly. Get ahead of the curve.
And the report actually says that these structural reforms can help when there's a slowdown in potential output growth.
That's right.
Wait, that sounds kind of counterintuitive.
That's so.
Well, doesn't reform usually mean some short-term pain?
You're right. It often involves some upfront costs and adjustments.
Yeah.
But the research shows that by making economies more flexible, they can weather those economic storms better.
I see. So it's like reinforcing a building to make it earthquake-proof.
Exactly. And a great analogy.
So it's about playing the long game again,
It is.
investing in the future, not just putting out fires.
You got it.
You know, as we were going through this report,
Yeah.
I noticed something that really struck me.
Oh, what's that?
The OECD points out how many low-income countries are facing huge debt burdens,
It's a big problem.
and it's getting harder for them to access new financing.
Right.
What does that mean for those countries?
Well, it's a potential pressure point for the whole global system.
How so?
If these countries can't manage their debts
Right.
and invest in essential services like healthcare and education, it can lead to all sorts of problems.
Like what?
Social unrest, political instability, even humanitarian crises.
Wow, so the stakes are really high.
They are, and these challenges rarely stay within borders.
Right, it's a domino effect.
Exactly. Instability in one place can create problems elsewhere.
So what can be done about this?
Does the OECD report offer any solutions?
Yeah, what do they say?
They recommend a multifaceted approach,
Okay,
debt relief initiatives for those heavily indebted countries,
makes sense.
increased development assistance from wealthier nations,
Okay,
and support for sustainable growth strategies.
so they can build stronger, more resilient economies?
Exactly.
That sounds like a really complex challenge.
It is.
That needs a global effort.
Absolutely no one country can solve this on its own.
It's a good reminder that global economic health isn't just about GDP numbers.
You're right.
It's about creating a more equitable and sustainable system.
A system that works for everyone.
Exactly. Well said.
Thanks.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the global economic outlook.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. We've seen resilience and uncertainty, opportunities and challenges.
All wrapped up in one.
We unpacked this massive OECD report,
We did.
explored the labor shortage puzzle,
And zoomed in on some specific countries.
trying to navigate this complex world.
It's all connected. What happens in one place affects us all.
That's the key takeaway.
It really is.
This deep dive has given you a foundation.
A starting point for understanding the global economy.
Now it's your turn to keep exploring.
Dig deeper into the countries and issues that you care about.
Challenge the assumptions and predictions we've discussed.
Don't just take our word for it.
Remember, understanding the global economy isn't about memorizing facts and figures.
It's about thinking critically,
Asking the right questions.
engaging in thoughtful discussions.
And who knows, maybe one of you listening,
We'll be the next generation of economic leaders.
helping to shape this ever-changing world.
It's an exciting time to be involved.
It is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We appreciate you listening.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep learning.
And until next time.